everybody. Welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. Today we have Shepherd Hoodwin, and we are now on part 5 on the Michael teachings. And we are doing a Michael reading, and we've been methodically with every single part going through this whole chart, which has essence and overleaves. And I'm excited. This has been super, super valuable and interesting. Thank you so much for doing these series.
Welcome.
So, Shepherd Hoodwin, show your book too for people who are interested in learning more about this work. And if you would like to try the Michael teachings yourself to see if you can make a connection or read a little bit more about all the stuff that we've been talking about, it's in the book. Excellent. All right, tell us your website too.
My website is Shepherd Hoodwin.
And that's how you spell it.
That's how you spell it.
SHEPHERDHOODWIN.com.
Yes.
.com. Okay, and
Excellent.
this is my cherished copy. It's one of the originals. So we were last talking about essence and overleaves. And just to refresh, tell us what the difference between an essence and an overleave is before we dive in.
Well, the top of your chart, which is the heading Essence, means these are soul traits that you carry with you through every lifetime on Earth as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom half, overleaves, are personality traits that are in this particular arrangement for this lifetime only.
Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing about this is that we've had many different like I have 11 previous cycles that go all the way out and then back. And is there a certain point where we're like, I'm done? Like you just terminate? Does our soul ever terminate?
Well, one of Michael's favorite quotes is that all is choice.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, everything we're doing, we've chosen.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily choose what other people do to us, but we chose our parents, we chose our body, we chose our life, we chose to be here on this planet,
Mm-hmm.
we chose the other planets we were on before we were on this planet, and so forth. And so, yes, if an eternal spark of the Tao decided that it didn't want to play this particular game in the universe anymore, there are plenty of other jobs that you can take on in the universe besides being a sentient soul in a creature of reason like we're doing. So sure, if you get tired of it, do whatever you want.
Well, what are the other jobs what are the other jobs I could elect to, aside from sentient soul?
Well, I make an analogy of a theatrical production.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're doing community theater.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are the actors on the stage are like you and me.
Mm-hmm.
We are the ones who are the front of the stage playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
We are inhabiting, in other words, a physical body that has enough capacity for complexity and subtlety and nuance and so forth to be occupied by a sophisticated soul,
Mm-hmm.
which is what each of us is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in other words, these are bodies that are capable of purely intellectual function.
Mm-hmm.
And so, those of us who are inhabiting the human form on Earth are the actors on the stage. And also, we have another sentient species in the water, which is the cetaceans, dolphins and whales. They're also...
I see. Okay, so we can come back reincarnated as a dolphin or a whale.
Well, probably you would not. Probably
Okay.
you would complete everything as a human, and then if you wanted to come back to Earth to do another cycle, that would be your other option, but you're much more likely to just start over on a different planet.
Okay, but then the option to just say I'm done, it's an option too. You're no longer a sentient being, then what are you? Just like ether, or what do you be?
Okay, so to continue the analogy of the theatrical production, there are people who run the lights. There are people who operate the box office. There are the people who design the costumes and build the sets and do the advertising. And it's like that in the universe here. So only about 5% of the Tao is playing the game that we're playing, which is inhabiting sentient species. And then the rest of them are intelligences that, for example, there are beings whose job it is to create and tweak life forms on planets. There are designers. And so,
I so want that job next time I come
yeah,
back.
yeah. So, and they may, be working on a new planet and say, well, this one worked really well on the other one, but we would need to make some modifications here.
Wow.
And so there are these beings who do that. And I think evolution is also an accurate concept because
Mm-hmm.
things do evolve and adapt and change. But there is also this tweaking that goes on. And when religious people want to say that it's all intelligent design, that God created all this, they're also correct because there are these beings who are a part of the Tao or God
Mm-hmm.
whose job it is to create all these plants and animals and minerals and gases and everything else. So that's one job, and all of the stars, the sun, they're intelligent. They're intelligent beings. So you could be a part
Mm.
of the Tao that inhabits the body of the sun, who is the
Mm.
sun consciousness, uh,
Mm.
and
Those are so many possibilities that I never, ever even imagined in that. And who knows whether they're real or not, but I like the idea of just this like gigantic workforce of people who are who are trying to create intelligent design. There's that movie that has that where that one with Matt Damon. Have you seen that movie? I can't remember the name of it. But in the background are all these people who are orchestrating life around Matt Damon, and they have this like intelligent design, and it's a group of men in this case who are dressed in suits that are running around maneuvering everything to happen according to a playbook that they have. I never I've never thought of that. Maybe the power of God is a whole bunch of different souls that are out there maneuvering things. I've never thought about that in a million years, or that the sun could be made up of previous souls. I think that's
well,
fascinating.
it's definitely everything in the universe is intelligent.
Hmm.
And so when scientists question, are we going to find intelligent life on Mars or whatever, Mars is intelligent life. Everything, a
Mm.
rock is intelligent. We know a lot of people love crystals,
Hmm.
and we know the intelligence of a crystal. It's just a masterpiece of sophisticated design. It's like a crystallized thought.
Hmm.
So there is nothing that is not intelligent. It's just that very little of the universe's intelligence carries on conversations in English.
Hmm.
That's what we
Yeah.
can identify as being intelligent, but everything is intelligent. And if we approach life that way, it's so much richer. If we look at every animal and
Mm.
appreciate the intelligence and the beauty and the soulfulness in each animal and even each plant, we know that plants feel things also,
Hmm.
and minerals.
Right.
Uh, Although I mainly do Michael channeling, I've gotten to the point where I can communicate with just about any being. And
Hmm.
I was on vacation in St. Martin in the Caribbean, and I noticed this huge boulder by this beach, and I tuned into it, and it was very angry. It was an angry rock. And I found out it was because some people had been murdered there at that.
Oh, wow.
So everything has consciousness. Everything
Wow.
is intelligent.
Mm.
So, and the Tao is the source. This
Hmm.
is Michael likes the term the Tao, Tao, rather than God,
Hmm.
because we don't tend to anthropomorphize the Tao. We don't tend to think of it
Right.
as old man with a long beard sitting on a cloud,
Right.
who's angry.
Right.
So, but we're all part of the Tao. Everything is part of the Tao, and we are all also playing in this universe in order to expand the Tao, to
Hmm.
understand more about what love is.
Hmm. Mm. Okay. So back to the Michael teachings, body type, and your overleaf. So the idea is that you have an essence, which is the part of you that comes back lifetime after lifetime in a certain type of configuration. And then there's certain lifetimes where you have a certain personality. You're configured in a specific lifetime in a certain way. And so you have a body type. And there's lunar, Saturnian? I don't know.
Saturnian.
Saturnian, jovial, mercurial, Venetian, Martial, Venetian, and solar. What are these?
I love the body type information.
Yeah.
It's one of the most useful
Huh.
parts of Michael teachings
Uh-huh.
because it tells you the not only the physical tendencies of your body, but also the psychological tendencies of your body. So you
Hmm.
might say, up until now, the overleaves we talk about your goal, etc. Those are the personality traits of your mind,
Mm-hmm.
but your body also has a personality,
Hmm.
and it has a great deal to do with people we're sexually attracted to or just really comfortable with.
Hmm.
And it has a lot to do with our nature, how we operate as a body.
Hmm.
So the body type is chosen by the soul before the lifetime, but it's limited somewhat by the raw material genetically in that fetus.
Mm-hmm.
However, the soul can tweak that, so you can have identical twins who actually have different body type influences, and as they get older, maybe one becomes more solar and another becomes more Venusian. So,
Wow. Huh.
so it's limited somewhat. Like if you want to be a Saturnian in your next lifetime, but none of the parents' ancestors had any Saturnian, you're probably not going to be able to do that.
Right.
But if there's anything there you can pull out like taffy to make it do what you want it to do, you'll do that.
Huh.
And the body type information is quite ancient. It's been taught in esoteric mystery schools and such. I think for like thousands of years. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
something that the gypsies knew about and that they taught, and they called it different things. But it was part of the teaching of the Russian philosopher Gurdjieff
Mm-hmm.
before it became part of the Michael teachings.
Mm-hmm.
And when Michael dictated it to the first Michael channels in the 1970s, they made some changes in it. So the way we understand,
Make changes to the Gurdjieff original.
yes,
Okay,
right.
got
So
it.
the way there are books on body types by Gurdjieff people. One called Body Types by Joel Friedlander.
Mm-hmm.
It's very useful stuff. But there are some differences in how we understand it in the Michael teachings.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's a lunar, and do they again they work on these axes? So lunar and Saturnian, is that one
They're
axis?
opposites, yes.
Okay.
The, the pairs on the axes are opposites.
Okay.
So lunar is I'm about the different something different about body types is that you're not just one. Very
Oh.
rarely are you just one. You
Okay.
usually have 2 to 4 of these influences.
Oh.
So I have 53% lunar, so that's my biggest one. So I'm a
Mm-hmm.
good example of lunar.
Mm-hmm.
Lunar is the most passive and feminine of the body types,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a body that really doesn't want to move. And
Mm-hmm.
so lunar, a lot of Chinese people have lunar.
Mm-hmm.
And the stereotypical nerd, the computer geek, the guy who likes to stay up all night,
That's my
lunar,
dad. Yeah, he had that
lunar,
type.
lunar is the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And so lunars tend to be night owls. They have their bodies look like Charlie Brown. Mine does.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is kind of a round head and a round body, or like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like my dad. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's like that too.
yeah. Like if I was placing a personal ad, sometimes people say, "Well, I'm the Brad Pitt type," and
Right. Yeah.
I would say I'm the Pillsbury Doughboy type, and hope
Then you go. It's not the noise that he made.
that's exactly right. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so that's a lunar type.
And because the moon is about dreaming and it's the
Mm-hmm.
most feminine,
Mm-hmm.
it's very cerebral. It's cool like the moon. It's very intellectual. So people with lunars might be really brilliant, but they're not in their body. They tend to be disconnected from their body a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now the opposite, which is what they are most attracted to, is Saturnian. And Saturnians are bony. They tend to be taller. They look taller than they are. They tend to have a high forehead, strong jaw, and they're the most masculine body type. Now, because they're both on the inspiration axis, they're both kind of calm. They're not, it's not like it's real expressive like the expression axis.
Sounds like Obama. Is Obama a Saturnian? Because
I
he's
think
tall,
yes, I think he
angular.
does.
Yeah.
I think he's Mercurial and Saturnian, which are both active types.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Saturnians are natural leaders,
Mm-hmm.
and they like doing. They're calm, but they like doing, doing, doing. And they tend to muscle up. They tend to have a lot of strength, but they can have back and neck problems, joint problems, because the bones are so prominent
Oh.
body type. Lunars tend to be very slow moving.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned that I was a slowpoke, and just slow at processing things,
Mm-hmm.
tend to have slow digestion. So
Mm-hmm.
there are different health pros and cons to each of them.
Mm-hmm. So if you know your type, you go, okay, then it also means I probably have these list of things that I need to actually watch out for.
Right, yes.
Okay. And what it's so lunar would be like digestion, those kind of things. Saturnian would be about bones and joints. So knowing your type would you could kind of have a highlight of like maybe some issues that you're going to face.
Yes, yes. And it also depends on what your secondary and maybe tertiaries are, because they will modify.
Okay, so my secondary is Saturnian, right? Yes, my
Yes,
secondary is
you're a
Saturnian.
Mercurial Saturnian. You're like President Obama.
Okay, even though my body's not quite like that. It was when I was
I think
younger.
you look just like him. Sister from another
Yes,
mother.
I am. Okay. All right. Okay, so jovial and mercurial, what are those? I'm mercurial. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
mercurial.
Um, Jovials look like Santa Claus.
Oh.
Um, they tend to not. They tend to be a little ugly, but in kind of they're not pretty people. They're
Okay.
they're like the guy with the big gut and the balding and the
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the fat nose and a
Yeah.
red
Red
um,
skin. Like Santa Claus.
like Santa Claus. Yeah, it's funny because I was just thinking about this, and the word ugly sounds so charged, but in the Michael teachings, we're dealing with a lot of opposites,
Hmm.
and Venusian is classically beautiful. And
Okay.
I thought, well, then jovial is similar but different. It's kind of classically ugly, but
Right.
it wouldn't be really politically correct to say that because people think it's bad to be ugly.
I
But
think they're
then,
so cute. Like when I see like a little Santa Claus kind of guy, like, ah, I just think it's so cute.
all right, and you know why?
Why?
You are a mercurial and you are attracted to jovials.
Oh, okay. That would make
So,
sense.
you can agree that the types are not pretty, but it doesn't mean you're not attracted to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they're so ador. I no, I'm attracted to them. Like
And
not
Gideon's,
physically
your
attracted.
husband's, that's a secondary. He's just got a secondary of
Yeah.
jovial.
Yeah.
And
So
so you are
cute.
attracted to that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yes, I am. I admit it. Okay,
Yeah.
so what is mercurial again?
Okay,
That's
mercurial is compact oval faces. They tend to have narrow shoulders. And the really great thing about being mercurial, although you can get wound up and nervous,
yeah.
the great thing about mercurials is the agility, the flexibility, makes them great at yoga, anything
I am
stretchy.
good at yoga, yes.
Yes, and because you have a secondary of Saturnian, Saturnian is not stretchy. It's the bone people that can be stiff,
Hmm.
but because you combine that with the mercurial, you get the good solid bone structure where you could be good at working out and such, but
Hmm.
you also have that flexibility.
Yes, and I also have back and neck problems. So,
Yeah,
yeah, right, because that's part of the Saturnian
it
thing, back
is.
and neck
Yes,
problems. So I'm there right there. Okay. And okay, so then how about Venusian? Is that the beautiful one, the Venusian?
yes. Venusians are very sensual.
Hmm.
And they tend to have lush, thick hair, often dark hair.
Hmm.
Elizabeth Taylor has Venusians.
Ah,
It's
okay,
really
got it.
classical, lush eyebrows. The men are teddy bears. They tend to be hairy, whereas jovial is not very hairy.
Right.
Um, and they're just cuddly, and they can get in the negative pole obese,
Hmm.
but kind of they're the type of people that get the insults that say, "You would be so pretty if you just lost weight," or "Doesn't she have a pretty face?"
Ah, like okay, got it.
Yeah,
That's what you
they
say,
tend,
Elizabeth Taylor.
Venusians tend to put on weight because they're sensual and they enjoy the sensual
Mm,
pleasures.
ah.
That's the personality of the body, regardless of the soul that's in the body. Venusians are just like that.
Ah, well, that's funny because my husband's Venusian, and he's just like a teddy bear. I'm not like when he was a little kid, they used to call him Doobie, which is the word for bear in Hebrew, because he's just like a little, like a teddy bear. And my youngest son, has that same Venusian where you just always want to like just go over and squeeze them. You know what I mean? I don't even like you want to squeeze their cheeks and squeeze their arms and just that's is that Venusian then? That's
It
Venusian.
is. That's
Okay.
Martial is its opposite. Martial is muscular, feisty, can even be muscle bound.
Hmm.
Typical uh, Irish boxer
Oh yeah, huh?
would
Yeah.
be Martial, the ruddy reddish color. Now I have a
Yes.
secondary of Martial,
Hmm.
and it accounts for my red hair and my red skin tones.
Hmm.
And it's funny, even though I look like kind of a Pillsbury Doughboy blob, underneath the blob there's muscle. And the muscle comes from the marshal, which is buried deep inside the flab.
All of us have Marshall buried deep inside.
Well, I do anyway.
The Marshalls are probably more evidentiary. You can look at them and they have that kind of type. I know my friend Michael has that. He's just skinny, skinny, but like he's
Muscular.
bony, muscular. He's super skinny, but you can just see muscles, all
Yes,
over.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
body
okay.
type.
And he's married to a woman, Kathleen, that has the same kind of body type. Okay, so what are the issues if you're Venusian? Venusian is kind of like you have to watch out for weight, I assume.
Yes, yes.
And
They tend to be healthy, but yes, they can definitely overdo the
how about
pleasures of the
Marshall?
flesh.
How about Marshall?
Marshals can be muscle bound. They can be very stiff.
Mm-hmm. Uh,
So with me being a lunar marshal, yoga is really out for me. I just have no stretchiness at all. Which is
uh,
where I'm kind of envying the
the
mercurial.
mercurial
Yes,
Satorian types, like
yes,
myself.
yes.
Okay, all right. So, what are the issues with jovial mercurial? What are the health issues for them?
Mercurials can just get nervous.
Yeah, I have a central nervous.
Yeah, nervous, wound up.
Yes.
Um, uh, jovials can be very obese,
Mm,
and uh, a jovial who eats the same as a mercurial, the mercurial is going to be a lot skinnier because the
mm-hmm,
metabolism is faster.
mm-hmm,
So the jovials, the Santa Claus types, are the classic wine women in song. They give great parties.
mm-hmm,
They enjoy. They dissipate their energy.
mm-hmm.
And mercurials take that energy being dissipated and they incorporate it into themselves and they get wound up with it. So they're
Mm-hmm.
opposites.
Mm-hmm.
But the dissipation could be an issue with the jovial.
Yeah, I have a dissipation issue. Like when I have too many toxins in my body, I just started getting hives all over.
Mm,
Yeah, because it needs to get out somehow and it doesn't
they're
know.
absorbing, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of gets out in these kind of weird ways. All right,
Yeah,
how about
feminine
solar?
body types absorb energy.
There's certain body types that absorb
The
energy.
feminine ones absorb energy, and the masculine ones exude energy.
Okay, so the feminine are the ones in the cardinal.
No, Saturnian is masculine,
Hmm.
jovial is masculine,
Hmm.
and martial is masculine,
Oh, okay.
and solar's androgynous.
Okay, so the other ones, lunar, mercurial, and Venusian, those are
Feminine,
female.
and
Female.
they are prettier. They are
Okay.
prettier looking, and the masculine ones are more rugged or handsome, or I'm probably not being fair to the jovials saying ugly, but they're coarser. They're coarser looking.
Yeah.
It's just like men are more coarse looking than women.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there are probably some jovial people out there that are attractive, but we just can't think of them right now. Like, like Russell Crowe, isn't he? Like he has that kind of rugged, but he's
He's
not.
martial.
He is? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, and I also want to say, you can be really attractive and have coarser or even uglier looks, but you can have still exude attractiveness. So they're not the
Right.
same thing. Pretty is not the same thing as attractive.
Right. It just has kind of a feminine aspect to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty is feminine.
Yeah. I have two pretty boys. They have kind of that aspect. For better or worse. Okay, what's solar?
Solar is the neutral one. Solars are delicate. They are attracted to all the body types. Remember how we were saying that in the far right column, the neutral traits can slide to any of the others? Well, solar can be attracted to any of the other body types. So body type attraction is not as big a factor for solar. Solars are somewhat similar to Saturnians, except they're slight. They're not like lumberjacks. They're more birds. They're delicate. They're childlike. They're radiant like the sun. And people like Michael Jackson or Judy Garland or Mia Farrow, who had a lot of solar to them, tend to be people that everyone else is attracted to, wants to take care of them. They're like child. That's your
Okay, now my son is more solar. And they have long thin necks?
Yeah.
There's I kind of like I'm always like saying to my son, I just want to snap your neck because he has this long thin neck.
Did you go to the Joan Crawford School of Mothering?
Exactly. Snap your. I'm like, I don't know what it is about your neck. I just went. I don't know why it's like that whole chicken neck. I'm not sure why.
But that's a factor in your last life.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. Soul age. I must be an infant or baby. There are different soul ages. Infant, baby, young, mature, old, and then there's a 1 through 7. Is this the same as? This is different than previous cycles, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's totally different.
Okay. So what's soul age?
So you might say your number of previous cycles is how old you are as a spark of the Tao, meaning all the other planets you've done. But soul age is how old you are on this planet. And so...
but that's in the overleaf, so that could be a different... Would I come in different soul ages each time? Like I come in as an infant?
Yes, your soul age progresses.
Oh, it progresses. So it's not as if I start off as an infant and I'm now mature, I'm not going to, or old, I'm not going to also go back to being an infant.
Correct.
Okay,
your first lifetime on a planet, the beginning of a grand cycle, you are a first level infant.
Okay.
You might take one lifetime to complete it if you have a very full life, or it might take you 7 lifetimes to complete first level infant. But when you've gone through all the stages of first level infant, you move on to second level infant. And that's why the numbers 1 through 7 are there. So if you're infant 1, you're infant 2, infant 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then you go to first baby and it repeats.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so...
All the first levels share some things in common. There's commonalities between someone who's first level baby and first level mature because they're both at first levels, but their stage is different.
Okay, well, because one's an infant and then maybe someone's a baby level 1. So what is the infant stage? Like what would a soul in an infant stage look like or feel like?
We don't see a lot of infant souls in the United States, and if we do see them, they would tend to be in slums, the urban jungles, but they're most typically in real jungles and in tribal situations.
Okay.
They're just getting used to the planet, so they need simplicity, and they need to learn how to survive. So their first few lifetimes... Anyone's first few lifetimes on the planet can be quite idyllic, like the Garden of Eden, where you just go someplace and you have sex and you don't realize that that's where babies come from, and you fish and you just play all day, just like babies do, just like infants do. But then later on in the infant cycle, they start to get more sophisticated experiences. And so you might have the beginnings of things like tribal warfare, where you have to learn how to survive. You may start forming karma with others by killing them or being killed by them, et cetera, and so forth. And there are no more infant souls coming to Earth as humans anymore.
What? Really?
The youngest soul currently on Earth is about third level infant. And that's because we don't know if humanity is going to survive. We've been polluting so much and so forth. And so they're just holding off on sending any new troops in.
Where'd you get that from? A news bulletin? Like, what? How do you know that that's true? By the way, Shepard, No more infants coming. How do you know?
Yeah, that was from the Michael Ticker tape.
Okay. Who said there's no more infants? Who said this?
Yes, Michael did.
Michael did? He said, and
Yes.
when did he say this? This group,
Um,
Michael. It's not a he. It's when did the entity Michael say this?
that was channeled in the original Michael channelings in the 70s.
Oh, wow. Okay, so since the 70s, there's no more infant level
One,
threes,
one or two,
one or
yeah,
twos.
or one or
Okay.
twos. No, there are no brand new souls.
Okay, and how about babies? What are
Okay,
babies?
so the infant souls lead very simple lives focused on survival.
Hmm.
When they progress into the early stages of the baby soul, they are seeking some structure, and it's more or less parallel to the toddler
Hmm.
who's learning to walk, learning
Hmm.
rules, learning, do's and don'ts, and they're still being kept pretty simple.
Hmm.
Baby souls are learning to function within a societal structure.
Hmm.
And where you find a lot of them is in heavily rigid religious fundamentalists.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Not all fundamentalists of whatever religion, Muslim or Christian or whatever, are baby souls, but many of them are functioning at the baby soul level,
Hmm.
where it's the rules are simple, and if you do this, you go to heaven, and if you don't do this, you go to hell. Very simplistic.
Hmm.
And they're forming communities. And so when you hear the Republicans talking about the small town values,
Hmm.
they're really talking about baby soul values, where you follow the rules and
Hmm.
fit in. And and to a baby soul, that looks like a virtuous thing. You
Yeah, and I actually like that. What I like about I talked to Ainsley McLeod, who had a very similar kind of old soul, new soul kind of thing, and it gives you compassion because if someone, sometimes people from the Tea Party they infuriate my friends, and it's like that's just the stage that they're in. They need to have rules and structure, and that's what they need. Why are you harshing on them? That's just what they need. So, what?
I,
What? Let it go. Okay, so that's a
so
baby soul.
in
What's
the
a
baby souls, they're starting to form communities. And this is also, infant soul is hunter gatherer, generally
Mhm.
speaking,
Mhm.
even if they're in the slums of New York,
Right.
whatever. But they're hunter gatherer types. And baby souls are now agriculture. They're now forming communities, and it's all about supporting each other. But it's not really about supporting each other emotionally or in terms of your inner world, it's more externalized.
Right.
And then the young soul cycle becomes even more externalized
Mhm.
in that this is the time of greatest outward achievement and also the time the soul feels the most separate, the most alienated, the most isolated
Mhm.
from the source. It's
Mm.
where the soul is saying, I want to do this myself. I want to see how far up I can climb the ladder of corporate success or any kind of success on my own. I don't want to feel so connected to others. Just like children, as
Mhm.
they get older, they're saying, Mommy, let me do it myself.
Right.
And so the majority of the rich and famous, especially those who are rich and famous for the sake of being rich and famous,
Right.
like
Like rap stars and
Donald
etc.
Trump, the
Yeah.
Kardashians,
Right.
um, and probably most of your corporate CEOs,
Mhm.
a lot of people in the business world
Mhm.
are young souls.
Mhm.
And so this is going, from being birthed from the Tao into this planet, becoming increasingly externally oriented, and then that peaks at the young soul cycle, and then you move into the mature soul cycle, and you're starting to go within.
Mhm.
And this is like adolescence, where you're dating and your emotions and hormones are raging all over the place. So the mature soul cycle is both you and Gideon are third level mature, so you're totally into the mature cycle by now.
Mhm.
And this is where the soul.
Wait, why did you condition by now? Like, does it relate to the actual age that you're in as well?
Well, first level mature still is still partly in the young soul cycle. There's still
Okay.
you haven't quite landed all the way.
Oh, I see. Got it. Okay,
Still,
got it.
you haven't totally. There's always transitions.
Right, because you're saying the different levels. So Gideon
Yeah.
and I are both
And
third
if you're
level
second
mature.
level mature, you're still kind of halfway in the young soul
Okay.
perspective. But at third level, you are immersed.
Okay.
And so third level is the beginning of what we call older souls, where
Mm-hmm.
the orientation is more spiritual and philosophical and internal.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where the soul will want to work on itself more, get to know itself better internally, get healing for things.
Mm.
This can be a very difficult level for souls like warriors and kings who've been very externally oriented. Let's say in the
Right.
been you've been fighting wars, and you haven't really been sensitive to emotions, especially if you've been male more often than female, and
Right.
then suddenly you hit this mature stage and all these new feelings are coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But for you as a priest and Gideon as a sage, it's not a big
Right.
problem.
It's not as uncomfortable. But I have a friend who is more. He used to be a fighter pilot, and I think he probably struggles, because he has this kind of, I want to be out there, and then he gets mad because people don't like his dowsing, which is kind of out there, and he's like, no, it's scientific, and I'm like, you're trying to convince people that it's science, that's just stop, just stop. But he gets, all agitated with that. So that's mature, and then old. What's an old soul? Yeah, because you're saying when
The
you're
mature
mature,
soul,
third level or above, you're starting to be an old soul. But then there's
older soul,
older soul. Okay.
yes. So mature souls specialize on one-on-one relationships. It's the time when
Mm.
relationships are the focus.
Hmm.
And when you get to be an old soul, it's more three-dimensional rather than one-on-one. It's more you, me, in our context. And so the old soul becomes increasingly philosophical, wants
Mm.
to understand intellectually, conceptually
Mm.
how things are. And as the soul progresses through the old soul cycle, it becomes more and more detached from from the human world.
Mm. Okay. Are
So
you an
this,
old soul? I assume,
yes,
yeah. And what stage are you in?
I'm at seventh old.
Oh my God, you're almost
So,
done. Goodbye. Nice
bye.
knowing you.
Go to
Goodbye. You just go to the sun.
Yeah,
There we go.
as soon as we finish this interview, I'm
I'm done.
cycling off the physical plane.
Oh, you're an old soul age and you're level 7. So you're really at the end. Okay, got it.
Yes.
And is that true? Like, do you feel like you're trying to understand the concepts? It's like this three-dimensional thing, which I have no idea even after you've told me what that means. What does that mean? What does that mean? It must be my immaturity. I don't even know what you're talking about. Because I'm a mature 3.
Well, old souls and mature souls look pretty similar.
Okay.
Um, any older soul can be interested in spirituality, in philosophy, in insights, the inner world.
Mm-hmm.
What you find with mature souls is they feel more intense, there's more drama.
Mm.
And with old souls, they feel more detached, laid back, less involved. They can
Mm-hmm.
the stereotype of the hippie
Mm-hmm.
who's really super laid back, like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to do, man,
Right.
it's cool. I mean, not all old souls are like that, but that's kind of
It's
a
like I've seen it all before, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Like, don't get worried about it. Everything changes. It always does. Like that kind of.
yeah, yeah. Old souls, if they're manifesting that, they tend to be philosophical.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Yep. I'm thinking about people that I know. Each time you say these different descriptions, I'm thinking of people that I know. Okay, so this is interesting because it does give you a sense. So if you were to do percentages, are most people in the young?
Yeah, the average person on Earth is fifth level young. And the average person in the United States is sixth level young. Now, this is
Hmm.
interesting because the United States, when it averaged fifth level young, that is, fifth levels are the sage level and it's expansive and innovative.
Hmm.
So when the US was the source of so much technological innovation, we were in our fifth level. Now we're in the sixth level. Sixth level is about karmic payback. And
Uh-oh.
we are getting our karmic payback
Yeah.
as a country now. We're no longer dominating things like we were, and the seeds we've sown are coming back in
Mm.
its phase.
How about places like Greece?
Greece might be mature on average. I don't.
Or
don't
Turkey? Like, those are civilizations that have been around forever.
Yes, but the average soul age can change
Yeah,
depending on who's coming in.
yeah,
Mexico is a mature soul country. The United
mm,
States, Canada are late young.
yeah,
China, I think, is just moving into the young soul
mm,
cycle, which is why it's getting so industrialized. You have a lot of
mm,
baby souls um, in China, but
mm-hmm.
the ones that are making a lot of money are probably the young souls because they're motivated to climb the ladder.
Interesting. Interesting. I find all this stuff fascinating. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of things. So we'd actually just gone through the Michael chart, and there's a whole bunch of other things that are part of the Michael reading. So tell me how this differentiates from the other stuff that's in the Michael material, Michael teachings.
Well, Michael addresses just about everything you can imagine that's relevant to human existence and how the cosmos works.
Okay.
And so they teach a great deal about how karma works,
Mm-hmm.
about our series of past lives. Um, it's all it's all just so useful to
Okay,
understand.
but I just want to hear the end of the world scenario. I just don't want to fast forward that. No more baby souls because the fate of our humanity is questionable.
No more infant. Yeah.
When we're infants. What the heck did that mean?
Well, I think the next 100 years will tell the tale as to whether we survive or not. Do we get the environmental catastrophes under control? And I'm optimistic about it. Michael is optimistic because um, the earth can heal very quickly if human consciousness grows.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, we do need to find new technologies. We need to deal with pollution and waste and CO2 emissions and all that sort of thing, which we're also doing.
Mm-hmm.
But the earth is a living being.
Mm-hmm.
And if we raise our consciousness, we will bring more healing energy to it. So I think we're going to make it. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think future generations are going to have kind of a rough go of it for the next
So
100 years.
what's involved with raising our consciousness? What would be, if you're talking to young baby and infant souls, what would you say to them is involved in raising consciousness?
Love, unconditional love. That's basically it. Is becoming self-aware,
Mm-hmm.
which means thinking,
Mm-hmm.
evaluating your actions.
Mm-hmm.
Don't assume that everything you think and feel is true just because you think it or feel it, but
Mm-hmm.
really step back, observe it,
Mm-hmm.
look at it. Ask yourself, is this action kind? Is it helpful? Is it necessary?
Mm-hmm.
Um, any soul age can wake up.
Hmm. So even an infant stage where you're pretty much concerned with, the basics, right? Food, shelter, water. So where does love come into that whole equation? So you're saying to say to someone who's like, I'm just trying to live here. I'm living in the slums. I can barely make it. And you're saying it's about love, about being clear with your intentions. How's that going to register? I mean, how do you land it on someone who's in that stage?
Well, sometimes infant souls are very loving, just like infants are. When they're
Mm-hmm.
happy, when their needs are being filled,
Mm-hmm.
when they're not being challenged too much, they can
Mm-hmm.
just be radiant and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's an innocence in the eyes of infant souls that haven't yet been through the shit hitting the fan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the thing about infants, whether you're talking about infant souls or infant humans, is that they can be very loving, but they don't yet have sophisticated tools for dealing with stress. And
Mm.
so, when the baby's diapers are dirty, she starts screaming because this is stressful for her, and she can't change them herself, and
Uh,
she can't be philosophical about it like an old person can be. And so, the infant soul can be very loving and sweet. Um, I think any soul age can wake up, but the older the soul, the more complex the understanding will be.
right. So, like an infant, maybe the level of love is about self love and self care and stress. Like maybe the level of love is at that kind of realm. How about for baby and young?
I think baby souls need to be tolerant,
Mm-hmm.
um, and not all baby souls are religious nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So there are baby souls who are non-religious,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a tendency to be dogmatic at that stage,
Mm-hmm.
and so being tolerant would be a good way of approaching
Mm-hmm.
unconditional love for
Mm-hmm.
them. Just realizing that other people don't all believe the same way you do, and that they don't have to.
Right. Okay, got it. So there's like different kinds of like consciousness awareness, like self-care, self-love, stress reduction to it. Everyone's different. You may have a certain set and structure of rules, but they don't mean everyone has the same rules and it's okay. Be tolerant. And then how about for young?
In a way, to me, love looks the same no matter what your soul age. It means that you want good things for other people and for all
Mm-hmm.
beings. You don't want to inflict suffering on animals. You want to take care of the earth. I think the young soul, because there tends to be a lot of ambition there,
Mm-hmm.
people who want to make it, want to be rich and famous for its own sake, although the vast majority of young souls are not rich and they're not famous
Mm-hmm.
because there's only a few of those on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But the ability to then use your rich and fame to bless other people rather than just holding it all for yourself. Because the young soul cycle can get very selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as I was saying before, it's quite isolated from the whole. It's the most alienated time for
Right.
this.
It's a whole like one percenter kind of whole the
Yes,
attitude of the one percenter kind of
that's right.
things. Yeah, you
Yes.
may be at the 1%, but that doesn't mean that uh, you don't have to care about the other 99%.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Okay, and how about mature souls? What can mature and old souls do to increase their consciousness?
Well, mature souls can be overly dramatic and they can be overly subjective. They can be too emotionally involved
Mm-hmm.
in things and they can benefit from stepping back. And probably then the opposite for old souls who can be so detached that they need to, get in the game and still contribute and, not retire prematurely.
Yeah. So if people want to get one of these readings, they go to shepherdhoodwin.com
This
and
is the
get
new
the
version.
book to read more about the Michael reading so you can get a chart like this. Go to shepherdhoodwin.com and you can get a reading and you can be anywhere and you can listen to these tapes and find all about your journey through the day.
Yes. Yes, and you can also, as you alluded to earlier, you can order a 10,000 word written chart explanation that is just tailored for your chart.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Blessings, blessings. We're going to have you on again to do like a channel writing. I
Okay.
can't wait to experience that. Ah!